We all pity the man, right? Wants to stride out of his house, go straighten out the corporation, has not yet straightened out his garage. You got to take care of the small disciplines before life will give you a chance to handle the more complicated disciplines. How do you think Mark Hughes got here? Scattered now throughout 14, 15 countries, another 14, 15 coming up. I mean, how do you do this? You start first with the smallest of disciplines, and do not neglect them and do not disregard them as being trifling. Everything matters. Everything's important. Good phrase to take home. All disciplines affect each other. In fact, here's a good philosophical phrase. If you hadn't thought of it before, here it is. Everything affects everything else. It's so easy to be casual and say, well, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. I'm telling you, everything matters. Of course, some things matter more than others, but there isn't anything that doesn't matter. Then here's the positive side. Every new discipline affects all your other disciplines. If you'll get some new things going, make some calls you've never made before, step up your activity level, step up your labor level, develop the skills from these 2 days of training here, and you'll go home and work some miracles on your days and your life and your future and your income, your business, and a bigger portion of that 400 million will certainly be yours. Go for the disciplines, the smallest of disciplines, the least of disciplines. Like keeping your accounts in order, the smallest of disciplines. Did you ever hear this expression? I don't know where it all goes. Did you ever hear that? I don't know where it all goes. Wow. Oh, we'd love to have you run Herbalife. You don't know where it all goes. How long do you think we'd last here in Herbalife if that was your philosophy sitting at the top like Mark Hughes? Let me give you the story on Mark Hughes. Mark knows where everything goes. And he started back when he only had pennies. He started back when he only had dollars. He started back when he didn't have much. But here's the key. One of the greatest extraordinary phrases that's ever been written from antiquity says, if you'll be faithful, if you'll be disciplined when the amounts are small, we'll make you a ruler, give you a position of authority when the amounts are many. Somebody says, I've only got 2 or 3 distributors, I don't know where they are. Come on. If you've only got 2 or 3, you can know when they get up. You can know when they go to bed. You can know all the details. Take care of your disciplines when the amounts are small. And then life will see to it that you get some extraordinary numbers to work with, like you saw the stories displayed here. Do not disregard the smallest of disciplines. Let us not neglect. Do not neglect the smallest of disciplines. And build on that foundation, and you can have everything you could possibly want. Okay? Get going.
Let me tell you, all of you out there who don't have a system of sustenance, you're fooling yourself. You can't stay at your mama's house forever. Sooner or later, you got to stand up and come up with a system that sustains you, even if it's not what you dreamed of. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But if you wallow in your problems, you'll never shift in your situation.
This is your time. Search yourself. Take personal inventory. When you do that, things happen for you.
Stop focusing on what you don't have. What do you have? What are your assets? Well, I'm not good in math, and I'm not smart, and I'm not this, and I'm not that. But God has given you something that can win the battle. Dreams motivate us. Dreams energize us. In all of your getting, get a dream in your life, and you become unstoppable. And don't underestimate it. And don't act like it's not important.
The first step is the most important because it gets you started. So I want you to have confidence today. Not for the whole journey, just for today. Just for this step. Go ahead and take it. Guess what happens? Each step gives you more confidence until you become a confident person, even in a crisis.
I want to talk to somebody whose days all look the same. And you wake up in the morning and it doesn't matter what you put on, and it doesn't matter what you do. You got the same thing to deal with. You got the same problem. You got to put up with the same lying people. You got to live in the same community with the same neighbor next door, deal with the same economic consequences, the same Monday, same Tuesday, same Wednesday, same Thursdays. On the outside, it's beautiful, but on the inside, it's paralyzed. On the outside, we paint great pictures. On the inside, we're not speaking. What difference does it make what day when every day is the same? Now, to all of you who are trying to figure out next steps because you have been paralyzed by a pandemic, you find yourself with your back up against the wall and you're trying to figure your way out.
Robert Schuller said, tough times never last. Tough people do. And so therefore you want to maximize this time where we are. And the best thing to do is do your best.
Take the step. Step aggressively towards your fear. And that step towards your fear is the step into bravery. Because we're scared of what we don't know. And there is only one way to learn and to know, and that is to confront that fear. You have to step. You have to go. Don't wait anymore. Don't think anymore. Don't plan anymore. Don't contemplate anymore. Don't make any more excuses or justifications. Don't rationalize anything else. No, and no. Instead, be aggressive. Take action now.
Some of you are in a season right now where you know where you're going, but you don't understand where you are. You know where you're going. Don't get discouraged by where you are. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how broke you are. You all have the same amount of time every day. You get 24 golden boxcars, and what you fill those golden boxcars with determines where your life and the direction of your life goes. Unclutter your life and keep focused. Don't give up. In trying times, don't stop trying. Regret looks back. Worry looks around. But victory looks up. A man is not finished when he's defeated. He's finished when he quits. The successful trait of all successful people is they conquered the temptation to give up, especially when it gets tough. Especially when all hell is coming against you. Stand up on your hind feet. Stand right there and say, you know something? It isn't the final say-so until I say so.
It don't cost no more energy to think big than it does small. You can say Volkswagen and you can say Rolls Royce with the same amount of effort. You ain't got to grunt to say Rolls Royce. If you think poor thoughts, you got to be poor. The moment you change that thought into wealth or riches, you start the process to becoming wealthy or rich. It's not a magic trick. It's really how it works. People complicate it. You got to do this and you got to do that. But it's just real simple.
This is the time to maximize your potential. This is the time to live your dreams because you can do more. It's important that we challenge ourselves. People form habits, and habits create futures. If you get in the habit of doing your best at all times, under all circumstances, something is going to be birthed out of you. And see, life is about maximizing the moment. We got a moment here. Maximize it. Take advantage of it. What else you got going on for you? This is an entrepreneur's era. This is no longer the job economy. This is the entrepreneur's economy. The gig economy, the attention economy. 47 million jobs will be lost through artificial intelligence. And the people that will be displaced, the people that will be traumatized, the people that will be impacted disproportionately are the people who are not willing to learn.
You have to learn to start where you are. Big doors swing on little hinges. Despise not the day of small beginnings. And so many people say, when I get a big break, when a big door opens, when somebody notices me, when somebody sees my talent and really invests in me, when somebody gives me that big break. But that is not the key to success. The key to success is to start where you are. Right where you are. Not when things get better. Not if you had what somebody else has. But start where you are.
It's interesting to me that successful people never seem to use the word normal to describe their lives. They don't. Because somehow they feel that out of the 8 billion people on this planet, that they are having a truly unique experience. It's interesting. The people who use the word normal to describe their lives, these guys, they seem to have a quality of dissatisfaction about some aspect of their lives. And if I'm talking about you, take notes, because that thing you're dissatisfied with will pop up one day and it will surprise you. Normal has held you back. Okay, what if your life looks a whole lot better on the other side of the line? What if on the other side of self-doubt, self-pity, low self-esteem, what if on the other side of that, your life looks a whole lot better? The people who are successful, they have a strong track record of blowing up their normal. Blowing it all up. They blow up their normal to discover success. I mean, check it out. Go talk to somebody out there. Identify somebody you think is successful and ask them, how many times have you blown up your normal? I'm telling you, end of the day, success is about blowing up your normal. That's how you get there. You have to blow up your normal. That's what you want. That's what is at the other side of normal.
Get around the right people, people that inspire you, people whose energy brings out the best in you, generate new ideas, a new perspective on how you look at this thing called life, and live each day as if it were your last, because one day, oh, come on now, one day, did you hear me? One day it will be. Learn how to present yourself. Learn how to earn money from home with your knowledge. If you can do it for corporations, you can do it for yourself. And you'll pay yourself 3 to 4 times more money, and with less hassle and politics and all type of pressure and stress that you deal with when you're working for someone else. That's the name of the game right now, is controlling your own personal economy. As I said, we're going from brick and mortar to click and order. That's the new economy. Learning how to present from home, learning how to use this computer to bring your personality through.
They said faith is the oil that takes the friction out of living. That's when you need to believe in yourself. Then you judge not according to appearances and say to yourself, it's possible. It's possible. I can make it. I'm going to get through this. It's possible. I'm not going to allow this to get the best of me.
If you're here today, there's something running through your mind that you want to do. There is no reason for you to be here today unless there's something running through your mind that you want to do. How many people here are over 40 years old? Raise your hands. Raise them high. Raise high. Don't be scared. Raise high. There's no, Jesus Christ, this is a young crowd. For the very small percentage of us here that are over 40, thanks, brother. There's like 8 of us, bro. For like the 11 of us, look, this is a lot of fun. For the 11 of us, we lived life before this. We were grown. We were grown-ups already before the internet came. I was 18 years old. I'd lived my life, at least the childhood part of my life, without the internet. The biggest thing that excites me, especially in a mature internet market like here, WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Spotify, like there's so much opportunity and you don't even have to leave your home. There was no building your life, after hours when I was growing up. When you had a job and you had to take care of something, you didn't then start another job because it was late. But now this allows it. The biggest thing that I want to get across in this little moment of this speech is everybody in here is taking this for granted. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, they didn't have this. If you aren't succeeding or attacking your success with this in your hand, then what are you doing? Every single person here has the opportunity to create a profile and a presence online, whether it's yourself or your business or your idea, and the cost is zero. I love when people get mad when Facebook or Instagram's organic reach goes down. I keep reminding them it's free. How many people here are on Instagram? Raise your hand. Over the next year or two, Instagram's reach is going to go down because more ads are going to go in. So as you can imagine, I'm so passionate to get you to post 3 or 4 times a day, not once a day, yet everybody overthinks their posts so much because they're so scared not to get as many likes as they did last time. It's true. It's 100% true. The amount of people here who want to post something but retake it 53 times or change the filter or things of that nature, or my favorite move, you post it, but in the first 83 seconds, you don't get enough likes and you remove it. It's a fascinating thing for me to watch because what it speaks to is, in my opinion, people being confused about the game. I view the game macro. I watch most people play micro. You're not in the business of getting likes on Instagram, yet you're pandering to the machine of that. You're in the business of creating awareness for whatever you want. You want people to know what you want them to know, whatever that may be. Business, raise money for a charity, sell something, become a personal brand, whatever it might be. Whatever it might be, that's what you want, yet people get so caught up in the semantics. Listen, what I can tell you from my career is this repeats over and over and over again. In 2006, I started one of the first YouTube shows, period. It was the longest show on YouTube when I launched it. YouTube wasn't even a year old. I sat in front of a camera and I drank wine for 30 minutes and a lot of people watched it. A year later, Twitter came out and I was one of the first people to move on that. I invested because I got smarter at that point, but I also was one of the first people to amass 1 million followers on that platform. Before I did YouTube and Twitter, a year or two earlier in America and many other parts of the world, MySpace had won and dominated, and there were people that won on that platform. If you pay attention to what happened on MySpace, if you pay attention to what happened on YouTube, if you pay attention to what happened on Twitter and then Facebook and then Vine and on and on and on, it's all the same game. In the beginning, if you move quickly, you can get more attention. Most people get frustrated that they aren't first, and then they don't go all in because they think they missed it. However, winning on these platforms is a game of being better, not first. Being better comes in 2 ways. This is where it gets very important, my friends. Being better on putting out content only comes out in 2 ways. Either entertainment, right? Or information. If you are putting out content on these websites and trying to grow, you want to succeed and build an audience, you either do information, you know what you're talking about, whether it's painting nails, business, wine, sneakers, hair care, I don't care what it is. You either know or you entertain. Entertainment comes in a lot of ways. This is playing out on Instagram. Entertainment comes in being funny. Entertainment comes in being musical. Entertainment and escapism comes in being attractive, being a model. It all plays if you're lucky enough to to have both, it gets really crazy. But if you do not do one or the other, you lose. If you go look at your Instagram account right now and look at the last 10 posts, my question to you is very simple. Did you post those posts for your audience so they could be entertained or informed? Or did you post it for yourself, for your own self-esteem or insecurities? Let me save you time. You posted it for yourself. The biggest takeaway that you could have from here, in my opinion, is a couple things. Number one, you are very fortunate to live in a country with disproportionate advances on these platforms. When I look at the data of how much attention is on this device and those 6 platforms in this country and the size of this country, it is staggering. This is one of the best places in the world to produce content for YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's one of the best places in the world. See, you did it again. You clapped for yourself. Oh, actually, fun fact, back to this amazing place and the internet and apps. I don't know if a lot of you know this, but I was actually one of the first 5 investors in Path, which was a huge app here for a long period of time before it shut down a year ago. So because I was an early investor in Path, and because this became the biggest market for Path 4 or 5 years ago, I spent a lot of time paying attention to this market from far away. And what I can tell you is this, the beauty of the people that live here, and there's so much, it's funny, there's so much amazingness, in the world that I see, how many people here consume my content? Raise your hands. Thank you. Thank you. So if you do, you have a good sense of me. You can imagine why I love Indonesia so much. All the love and optimism and warmth plays out here. But the biggest thing that I'm passionate about is getting people to be less insecure and care less about what people think, especially their parents, plays out here too. And so for me, it's a really interesting market to look at with trends and how people do things and what they respond to and who they follow and why. And so what I can tell you is, if you are capable to be strong enough internally to start posting on these platforms more truth, more your truth, your truth, you will see a remarkable return on that investment in this market.
So you spend a minute each on those. So basically 3 minutes each, 3 1/3 minutes each, and we're done. All right? How many want to try? All right? Then let's do it. So before you do, stand up. Shake your body out, and if you're going to relax, the fastest way to relax is first push yourself to a high level of energy, then it allows you to drop deeper. So find a partner and go, I own you.
So I'm a guy, I appreciate every facet, every phase, what some may consider to be success, failure, opposition, ups, downs. I appreciate every facet of life, and I firmly believe that life is the greatest classroom. Right? And when I encounter situations, my perspective goes to a place of, okay, life, what are you trying to teach me right now? But it wasn't always in that space until the year of 2006, when I was at the University of Tennessee pursuing this dream to go to the NFL, which I soon found out it didn't just stand for National Football League, it also stood for not for long. But when I was pursuing this dream to happen and manifest, in one moment, I lost everything I had been working for my whole life. And the next day when I woke up, my life has never been the same ever again, right? And so when it happened, not only did it alter my life, God stepped in, used the situation to alter my perspective. And so I look at people, situations, places, and things, I view it differently, right? And so I landed in Seattle a couple of months ago around midnight. Right, an amazing thing happened. I land in Seattle, a gentleman picks me up from the airport, and we ride to my hotel, and when I get out of the car, I say to the gentleman, man, thanks a lot, I greatly appreciate it. And he says to me, no problem, I just want to let you know, I'll be the guy that's coming back to pick you up in the morning. I said, okay, great, what time would you like for me to be down? He says 7:15. I said, great, I'll see you then. The next morning I come down, we greet each other, we get in the car, we're riding to the venue that I'm scheduled to speak, and maybe 5 minutes into the trip, I look up and I look in the mirror and the gentleman is crying his eyes out. And I say to him, sir, is everything okay? And he responds, I want to paint a picture for you. He said, my normal job is not in transportation, I'm not a driver. He said, my buddy owns the company. He said, whenever he gets overwhelmed with shifts, he'll call me and say, hey man, can you cover a shift? And usually I'll do it because we do a lot of work with the Seattle Seahawks. And so when I drop a guy off, I'll go on the computer, look him up. Pretty cool experience. He said, so naturally when I dropped you off last night, I went on the computer at my house. I started to look you up. And he said, I saw a video about redirection and I saw a video about perspective. And he said, the reason I'm crying is because I just lost my wife. My wife just died. He said, and I've been living my life thinking, surely there's nothing else that can bring me the passion, the energy, the fuel, the driving force that my wife once brought me. Surely there's nothing else as purposeful as my wife to make me get up and give everything I got to everything I'm a part of. And he said, when I saw the video, it's not that it could replace my wife because nothing could ever replace my wife. He said, but when I saw the video, the amazing thing it did was it altered my perspective and it gave me a new sense of energy. I said, great. I said, man, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. I said, you said you had 2 kids, right? He said, yep. I said, okay, cool. Could you tell me at a basic level, in the midst of the opposition, how did you get up every single day, put one foot in front of the other, go out of the door, carry on in your career, and raise your other 2 children in the midst of the adversity? Can you tell me when you took the blow, you had to absorb the blow, how did you get up every single day and still look at life with some sort of energy and do what you had to do, right? Because the quote says it, you judge the character of a person not by where they stand in times of comfort and convenience. You judge the character of a person by where they stand in times of challenges and controversy. Mike Tyson said it best, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Like everybody is on fire for the Lord until opposition happens, or when the situation or the circumstances change and they don't get what they expected to get. And so I wanted to understand, in the midst of the opposition, how did you get up and how did you carry on and stay committed to your family and to your career? And he said to me, I have to be honest with you. Follow me. He said, my wife had been sick for 30 years. He said she was wheelchair bound. He said the situation in our household had gotten so toxic that every single day we would get up and when we would meet each other in the living room, we would just bicker, argue, fuss, say certain things to each other to the point to where I couldn't take it anymore. And I called one of my buddies and said, I'm leaving. Can I come and stay with you? He said, sure, man, come on. He said, I left. I packed a little night bag. I get to my buddy's house. I get up the next morning. I'm in the mirror and I'm brushing my teeth. And as I'm brushing my teeth, he said he's saying to himself, for richer or for poor. Yeah, we've been pretty poor. For better or for worse. Yeah, things have gotten pretty worse. Through sickness and health. And he stopped, put his toothbrush in his bag, zipped it up. And he said when he looked in the mirror, the conviction said to him, you didn't finish. So you didn't do what you said you were going to do. You didn't stand in the pocket how you said you were going to stand it. You didn't be the man that you told her you were going to be. You were all good when it was all good. But when things started to go south, you weren't the man that you said you were going to. You didn't fulfill your promise. And he said the conviction took him right back to his home. And when he walked in the door at his home, his wife was sitting there in the wheelchair. And as soon as he walked through the door, she said, what are you doing here? And he said she started giving it to him. And he said to her, I deserve it. Get it out. Say everything you got to say to me. And he said when she finished, he told her, I just want you to know I'm never leaving again. I'll never go anywhere. Right? No matter how tough it gets, no matter how rough it gets, no matter how bad it gets, I just want you to know I'm going to stand in the pocket and I'm going to be here as your husband. I said, can I ask you another question? He said, sure. I said, if you can go back, shift the situation, change anything about it, what would you do differently? He said, it's easy. He said, I would have shifted my perspective and I would have embraced the opposition a lot earlier. He said, because the moment my perspective shifted, not only did my disposition switch, it shifted my whole household. He said, the funny thing is, because of our perspective, we didn't view the opposition as opposition anymore. We started to view the opposition in adversity as an opportunity. I said, bingo. I said, because I'm a firm believer that perspective drives performance every day of the week. How an individual view what they do will always affect how they do what they do, right? The amazing thing about it is I love the game of football, right? I loved everything about it. I was a part of something to where I can inflict violence and not get in trouble for it. Sign me up every day of the week, right? I loved every bit of it. But I understood very early that the game of football was kind of like this stage. It was a platform that God had provided for me to cultivate a certain level of excellence and greatness, so that one day when I could no longer play the game, it was certain things I could extract from it to apply to other areas and aspects of my life to make me somewhat of a decent human being. And so the most amazing thing about it was I had a coach. I was just texting him backstage. He changed my life, right? When I was coming up inner city Atlanta, born to my mother at 16, in a 2-bedroom home with 14 people. And I had this dream to go to the NFL, but I didn't have the resources, and I was stuck playing tackle football in the street. And I saw a guy that paid for not only me and my 3 cousins, he paid for kids all across Atlanta, and he didn't want anything in return. And one day when I got the opportunity to ask him a question, because he had to drop me off at home after practice, and my mother was working a double shift at Wendy's. And I'll never forget, I got out of his truck, and my house was 125 Warren Street at the time. And when I got out, I said, "Coach, man, I really appreciate it." He said, "All right, Ink, I'll see you tomorrow." I said, "Can I ask you something?" I said, "Sure." I said, "Why do you do what you do?" And he opened his door, got out of his truck, walked around, stood directly in front of me, and I'll never forget, he said to me, "Son, I'm gonna share something with you, and I don't want you to ever forget it." He said, "As long as you can make sure that somebody else's life is okay," he said, "Son, God will always make sure that your life is okay." And he got in his truck and he left. And so it was hard for me to understand, when we played the game of football, how could an individual be a part of an institution and not give everything they had to it if they were doing it for the glory of God? It was hard for me to understand how, if a person had somebody that they loved and they cared about, how could they not push them to get the best out of them if they were doing it for the glory of God and they viewed it in a certain light? And so when I got to the University of Tennessee, I'm gonna be honest, it was Mayberry for me. I was like, man, y'all get smoothies. Like, you get steak, shrimp, and spaghetti. Like, guys today are spoiled, right? They got their own barbershop, right? They got AC in their lockers, right? They got nap pods where they can be walking and stop and take a nap. Nap pods. Listen to me for a moment, nap pods. Where they could just be walking and it's like a nap pod. You're tired, you could go take a nap. Nap pod. It blows my mind, right? And I had 2 meetings, and then these 2 meetings, the job of the meetings was to get a sense of direction of what I wanted to accomplish. And so in one meeting, I said, okay, I want to graduate in 3 years, and I want to go to the NFL. They said, well, Inky, you didn't just knock out your testing. I said, I get that, but I really want to help my family. And we had a scrimmage, and I'll never forget our first scrimmage, and I was so excited. I was so hyped. I'm an undersized guy. I'm passionate about the game. I want to give everything I got to it. I have a great scrimmage, right? I'm talking trash. I was a big trash talker, right? Clean trash, but I was a big trash talker. And our chaplain, who now works with the Tennessee Titans, James Mitchell, was present. And when we broke it down and we were walking off the field and I was carrying my pads, and he said, hey, come here. And I jogged over to him and said, hey, man, how you doing? He said, I want you to meet me in my office in the morning. You talking a little crazy. I said, all right, cool. And the next morning I go to see him and I sit down in his office. I say, hey, man, Mitch, how you doing? Like, hey, man, I'm great. I said, what's up, man? What's the meeting about? He said, I want to disciple you. I said, what is that? I said, that sounds hard. He said, yeah, I want to disciple you, like spiritually. I want to go deep with you. I want to help you develop. He said, like when you have meetings with football, like position meetings, I want you to meet with me prior to the meeting, and I want to be able to give you homework, and I want to make you sacrifice and abstain for certain things. I want to help you develop spiritually. That's what discipleship is. I want to go deeper with you. I said, okay, can you give me a second? I want to go talk to my roommates and see, can they do this with me and walk with me, because I want a certain level of accountability. He said, yeah, go talk to him. I go talk to my roommates. At the time, it was Gerard Mayo, who went first round 10 pick to the Patriots. Now he's the Patriots linebackers coach. It was Robert Ayers, who went first round 18 pick to the Denver Broncos. It was Ramon Foster. He's starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers still until his day, and he went free agent. He's been starting for him ever since he got in the league. And I went to him and I said, hey man, here's the deal. He wants to walk with us spiritually. Are you guys down? He was like, yeah, let's do it. I said, I get it. We want to be great athletes, but I think we want to be well-rounded as men as well. And this could be really beneficial, and we can hold each other accountable. When one guy gets weak, another guy can step up and help him out. Can we do this? It was like, yeah, let's do it. Right? In the first meeting, we tried him just to see how serious he was. He gave us some homework. We showed up to the meeting. None of us did the homework. He had us look up some scripture. We walk in and we sit down. He was like, you got your work? We were like, nope. He was like, get out. He's like, come on, man. Like, let's go through the lesson. He's like, no, get out. And when we walked out, I'll never forget, Mayo said, oh, he wasn't playing. I was like, no, he's not playing. right? And the next meeting we showed up and we had everything. We would be in the complex at 4:30 in the morning, going over scripture. We'd be in the complex at 4:30 in the morning with our Bibles open, and Mitch was challenging us. We'd be in at 4:30 in the morning, and he was talking to us about abstaining from sex. We'd be there at 4:30 in the morning. He'll be talking to us about different challenges and how to lead our teammates.
the one thing, whether or not this is a dream or not, becomes irrelevant. The only thing that matters, if it is a dream, is whether you can realize what the essence of the dream is. Consciousness. And you can only realize that directly, here and now, as this. Oh, Descartes, of course, the French philosopher, said, I think, therefore I am. If he had waited a little bit longer before saying anything, he could have come to the point of cessation of thinking, and then he could have made the more profound statement, I am conscious, therefore I am. Thinking is only an expression of consciousness, a surface expression of consciousness. So this realization of, we could call inner stillness, of spaciousness, of presence, of, well, there's a term that's very popular these days, and that's a good thing. It's called mindfulness, which I use almost never, except when I explain why I don't use it. I don't use it because it seems to imply that your mind is full, but it's not what mindfulness is. It really should be called mind emptiness. The entire practice of, for example, people find certain esoteric spiritual practices very strange and hard to understand. Zen is one of those. People say, what does it all mean? What's Zen all about? Cessation of thinking without loss of consciousness. That's what the Zen masters are trying to show you, non-conceptually. As the Zen master became famous because when he was asked, please explain the meaning of Zen, all he would do is raise his finger and look at you. Is that it? Yeah. And I've been in the monastery for 15 years for that. Yes. Sometimes it takes a long time before realizing that it doesn't take time to know who you are. That's a paradox. So I'm not saying don't go to a Zen monastery. Perhaps you have to. It may take time to realize that it does not take time, but it doesn't have to take time. It's here and now. I'm saying this to especially the spiritual seekers among you who have made it your life purpose to seek whatever it is, the ultimate spiritual experience or transformation. And the very seeking has become, without you knowing it, the greatest obstacle to spiritual realization.
First of all, one of the things about the global pandemic that I said to my staff and to my family the moment I heard how the circumstances in the world changed, I just said I refuse to be a victim to these circumstances. So a victim consciousness is when we allow something in our outer environment to control the way we feel and think. So if I say to you, Jay, why are you so upset today? And you said, oh, it's because of this person or circumstance. What you're really saying is something in my outer environment, some person or some condition is controlling the way I think and feel. Now, that's not the truth. That's just a response, right? So anything that controls our thoughts and feelings causes us to be victim to those things. And the stronger the emotion we feel to some circumstance in our life, the more we pay attention to it. And where we place our attention is where we place our energy. So we're giving our life force, we're giving our power away to that circumstance. And so I just made up my mind that it was a great opportunity to get into the cocoon. And I don't think I've been healthier in my life. I mean, I'm usually on 6 different time zones in 4 weeks, running a lot of events, as you said. But I saw it as an opportunity to really self-reflect, to really immerse myself into my own personal work, to redo our website, to redo our brand, to connect more with my staff, to cook my own meals again and work out and use my body and do my walking meditations on the beach, and of course I've had a fabulous 9 months or so. But I think, I think one of the challenges I think many people have is really the discernment of information. It's really difficult to know what's the truth anymore, just because information is so accessible. And I used to say that in an age of information, ignorance is a choice. And now we have to confront a whole nother level, and that is the information that we're getting. Is it actually supporting us, or is it something that really is an incentive to cause us to make choices? So for me, I think the biggest challenge has been just really an awakening to what kind of information I want to expose myself to. And I think it's now more than ever a challenge for a lot of people in the world.
So I'm going to talk to you today about a different way of looking at what real is. It's not easy to figure out what real is because we don't really have infinite knowledge, and so we're always making some sets of presuppositions about what's most real. And it really matters what you assume is most real, because you base the decisions that you make that run the entire course of your life on those assumptions, whether you recognize it or not. And if you get the assumptions wrong, or even if you leave them incomplete, you're going to pay a big price for it. And the assumptions that we use in our culture, although they've enabled us to develop a tremendously potent technology, are incomplete in ways that have also cost us and that are extremely dangerous. And since the scientific age began, we've lived in a universe where the bottom strata of reality is considered to be something that's dead, like dirt. It's matter, it's objective, it's external, and there isn't any element of it that lends any reality to phenomena like meaning or purpose. That's all been relegated to the subjective and in some ways to the illusory. But it's by no means self-evident that that set of presuppositions is correct, because we lack infinite knowledge, and there's many things about the structure of being that we don't understand. The main one being consciousness. We can't account for it at all, and we can't account for the role it appears to play in the transformation of potential into actuality, which is a role that's been recognized by physicists for almost 100 years now, and which remains one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in science. There are other ways of looking at what's real. And these other ways have some advantages, and one of the advantages they have is that they protect us. Knowing these other ways of operating within reality, defining reality, protect us from certain kinds of pathologies. And modern people are prone to a fair number of pathologies that stem from assumptions of the systems they use to define reality. And one of those pathologies is kind of a nihilistic hopelessness, which is a consequence of the recognition that in the final analysis, nothing really has any meaning. And because life is difficult, and that's a meaning that you can't escape, being forced to abandon your belief in a positive or a transcendent meaning can leave you weak at the times when you really can least afford to be weak.